confidence is a skill. Confidence is something you have or you don't have. I was really twisted about the thing of confidence. And then I found this definition and I was like, holy shit.
What's up, Dream Nation? It's Morgan. In this episode, I sat down with Erika Cramer, the confidence queen, and we talked all things about mindset, adversity, and how to create a massive life of confidence.
Who are you to tell me, the queen of confidence? I'm usually in hot pink. I look like a very confident, outgoing person. I'm an extrovert as hell. I appear to be this untouchable, confident person.
We talked about why confidence actually feels like shit.
This confidence feels like shit. The truth about confidence and what it really takes to create it. It feels like shit because it's so hard to be.
We also talked about imposter syndrome and the things inside of our mind, how we can really overcome them to literally create the life that we want. Do you still deal with imposter syndrome?
I don't like that word. I hate imposter syndrome. I really like to reframe imposter syndrome as to not just calling it a syndrome and a label, but asking yourself, what do you feel like you're pretending or imposturing about?
And she also shares some super vulnerable stories of the things that she went through and practical tips on how you can also use them to overcome any adversity and create a massive, successful life.
I grew up in foster homes. My mom was bipolar. She physically abused me. I was sexually abused. I was kidnapped. And it was a horrible childhood upbringing and so much trauma.
Buckle up. You guys are going to love this one. If you're brand new here, welcome to Dream Nation. And if you're coming back, welcome back. Let's get into this episode. Alrighty, guys. Today's guest is a confidence coach for women, international speaker, podcast host, and best-selling author. Coming from a childhood of trauma and living out of foster care to breaking her back in a car accident that saw her spiraling out of control down a path of alcoholism, she decided to make a drastic change in her life. Founding her own business and then rapidly growing it to multiple six figures in record time and having an impact on thousands and thousands of women around the world. Please welcome my friend, the queen of confidence, Miss Erika Cramer.
Woo! Hi, Morgan. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me, my love.
I'm very excited that we could dial this in and make this happen. I've been seeing all of the amazing things you do, the impact you're having, and I just absolutely love your energy. And when I was putting together my research for you for this episode, your story got juicier and juicier and juicier. But I do want to start with your book. Your book is called Confidence Feels Like Shit. Why does confidence feel like shit?
Oh, gosh. So the completed thing of the book is confidence feels like shit. The truth about confidence and what it really takes to create it. It feels like shit because it's so hard to be, air quotes, confident and put yourself out there and be in the arena, as Brene Brown says. People see you and they're like, wow, you're killing it. You're doing amazing, Morgan. Oh, my God. Yet they don't see you a minute before you walk on stage, and the nerves and the butterflies and the criticism and your family going, what the hell are you doing? Why don't you just get a job? Right? Like, we go against the grain and it's very scary, and we have to deal with criticism, with messing up, with falling flat on your face publicly. And that's the unsexy side to confidence. And if we're willing to deal with all of those nasty emotions and stand out from the crowd, then yes, you can create confidence, but it does not feel good when you are doing so.
It's actually really true. It doesn't, does it? But do you...
No.
I feel like I've actually developed a loving relationship with that shitty feeling. Like, I've even taken up... I'm a skydiver now. So right before I jump out of a plane, I don't think there's ever been a time I've got up in the plane and about to jump out where I'm like, oh, I'm so excited about this. It is like, fuck me. You know, and it's that fight with continually doing things that continue to scare me or push my comfort zone, or because I know the feeling of what happens after, right?
Yeah.
How can people, I guess, develop a better relationship with that feeling? Because like you're saying, like, you're feeling like shit before it comes. Mm-hmm. How do we develop a better relationship with that courage, I guess?
I think we need to know that it feels like shit. I think the part that I see my clients struggle with the most is that they think that something's wrong. And whenever I get a chance to speak to audiences, I'm like, hey, are you scared as hell? Hey, do you have to do a spiritual poo before you get on stage like I do? Hey, are you freaking out? Do you feel like you're doing the thing wrong and you're shaking and you're like so nervous? Me too. And they're like, and I'm like, hashtag do it scared. Like, I think I left my comfort zone in America. Like, I am so like up leveled every single day. I'm so nervous and uncomfortable with what's going on. But this is what is required when you want to live an extraordinary life. So if you're listening to this, I'm sure you listen to Morgan's podcast because you want to live an extraordinary life, right? Because that's what you speak about, leveling up. How can you be great? And when we're doing this, we have to know that this is what it's going to feel like and that that's normal, not being scared, not feeling like I got this. I never feel like I got this. I'm always questioning myself, and self-doubt is a part of the process because confidence is not created in your comfort zone. And so I think knowing that helps give you like, oh, okay, there's no problem. But I don't think enough people know it. Like, we believe that when I have more confidence, then I'll do the thing. It's like, no, you're going to be scared as hell walking in the dark. That's what courage is, by the way, like taking action while you are shitting yourself, scared as hell. That's courage. It's like, oh, okay. You know?
Yeah. A mentor put it to me one time when I was getting into public speaking and I started speaking on stages and stuff. And the conversation was around, I'm not yet confident enough for that yet. And I started to catch myself exactly what you're saying, like when I have the confidence. And she said to me, she's like, you'll never have the confidence until you take the first step of courage. Because confidence isn't a thing you do, in my opinion. Confidence is a thing that we have an arguably amount of evidence to prove that we are good or are capable of doing a thing. That's why when I can be like, I'm a confident speaker now, because in my subconscious mind, I have hundreds and hundreds of hours of evidence to prove to myself that I have completed it and not died. And I've completed it and been successful at it. So it does get easier, but before it started, it took a hell of a lot of courage first. Courage has to come first, and sometimes it's frightening.
Oh, it's so scary. I think my favorite definition of confidence is the Latin, like the root word in Latin, and it's confidencia, right? And it means in Spanish, it's confianza, which literally translate into trust. So for a long time, because I've been studying confidence for like 10 years, and for a long time, I was like, oh, confidence is a skill. Confidence is something you have or you don't have. Or, you know, I was really twisted about the thing of confidence. And then I found this definition and I was like, holy shit. And so from now on, this is what I believe confidence is. It literally translates into self-trust. Do you trust yourself? It's literally like confianza in Spanish is trust. So when I speak Spanish and I'm like, yo no tengo confianza, I don't have trust. Oh shit. So how do you build trust with yourself? How do you build confidence? Is you start keeping your word. When you say you're going to the gym at 5 a.m. and then you snooze 7 times and you don't go, that breaks your trust. When you say yes, but you really meant no, that breaks your trust. And so everyone can access more trusting of yourself. And then you have evidence, as you have. Like, I don't feel confident when I'm going to speak on stage. Every single time I'm like, what if I just went home? Do you think anyone would notice? And I'm like headlining the freaking thing, you know? But I'm like, fuck. And then my foot gets on the stage and I just am like blackout and I do the thing. And everyone's like, that was amazing. And like, Morgan, no one would know. Like, no one would know if I got off and went, I was so fucking nervous. Like, holy shit, that was scary. They'd be like, you absolutely killed it. I trust that I'm going to kill it. But right now, I'm scared as hell. You know, it's like.
Yeah. That's so accurate. So I'll tell you a story. So this year, I started to get my skydive license this year, right? And on the first day of doing the course, they sit you in a room. And they give you about 9 hours straight of PowerPoints of how you can die skydiving. And here's all the different ways you can die, blah, 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 blah. So I did a whole day and I called my girlfriend that night and I said, hey, look, I'm not sure if I'm really going to go through this. Like, you know, I think I've kind of changed my mind. I live a pretty fun life. Do I really need to jump out of airplanes as well? Yeah. And she's like, come home then if your gut's telling you no, trust your intuition. I'm like, just let me sleep on it. I'm not sure if this is, I'm not sure if this is my gut intuition or if this is just feel like I've never felt before. Because the next day I do my first solo jump and I'm like, I'm not ready. I go to sleep that night, wake up the next morning, and I'm still freaking out. And I asked myself the question, I'm like, Morgan, what are you really worried about here? And the answer I got was, well, what if you don't open the parachute? Stupid thing to say, but it was real. And I was like,
true.
Why the fuck would I not open the parachute? And my mind's like, well, I don't fucking know. Just what if? It's a possibility you jump and have a fucking airplane. It's just you. and you have a piece of fabric to break your fall. And you've got to remember the things you learned yesterday in the 9 hours of classroom, right? And I'm like, this is fucking wild. But then I said to myself, okay, so it's not really the falling, it's not really the remembering of what to do, it's none of that. It's the fact you don't trust yourself to make the right decision in the moment. And I was like, oh. It was like a big personal development event for me. So that's when I realized that was the thing. I was like, it's a self-trust thing. And so it should be, because I hadn't yet done it. I hadn't done it yet. So I was like, okay, do I trust myself enough to just do the thing step by step? There's 5 steps to skydiving. Can you just do those steps and do one at a time? Just do that. So I did it. So the first time going up there, I was like, this is so dumb. I'm going to do just one jump and I might not do the rest. And I got up there and I just focused on doing the one thing at a time. Exit the airplane, and then free fall, and then pull the chute, and then parachute, and then land. And then when I landed, the feeling, I think I screamed. I was like, fuck yeah. And now I'm onto my B license. I'm going because I just got hooked. But now it's like I can get up there and I can backflip out of the plane and not care about anything else, because I'm just like, I just trust my ability to be able to find the level ground somewhere, know how I'm falling, and just figure it out as I go along. Like I can exit really bad and just have fun because I trust myself to go for it now. But it's the ability to really step through that massive fear in the beginning to develop the self-trust. And the self-trust is the self-esteem as well, right?
Yeah. And I think too, like, I've never skydived. I remember when I was 18, I was like, I'm going to skydive. And then my husband convinced me, kind of like your girlfriend, to not do it. And I was like, shit, you're right. I don't want to die. And I was just like, do I want to do it now? Nah, but I want to do other things. But if maybe you're listening to this and you don't skydive and you've never skydived or you don't public speak, you're still here. Like you've made it through your life. There has been scary things as you're listening to us that you personally have been through, and you're still here, my friend. So you know that 10 times out of 10, you've made it. So what I think as well, if you're listening to this and you're like, shit, but I've never skydived, shit, but I've never started a business, shit, but I've never spoken on stage. So what? Like you've proven to yourself that you can get to where you are right now. And so there is evidence of you surviving and maybe even thriving at some points in your life. And so if you could do that shit, then it's like, I got it in me. I don't know how the hell I'm going to do it, but I know I can do it. And if you can access that, like that's available.
Yes. It's like collecting evidence, collecting an album of unarguably evidence that you are the person who does the thing you said you were going to do. That is the art. Erika, tell me what happened in 2007.
2007. So we were, when was that? Oh yeah, that was the second year. So the year before 2007, I was out drinking and driving with my husband at the time in America. And we got into a really bad car accident, like horrible. And I didn't have a seatbelt on. And I broke my back and was in the hospital for 32 days, attached permanently to a morphine pump, had to learn how to walk again. It was a hot mess. I was 22 years old. Then the following year, as you can imagine, we did not drink and drive anymore. We were very safe. Everybody wore seatbelts. And we had this party, Cinco de Mayo, which is the 5th of May. It's a big thing in America. And in America, everybody pays $50 and we get pay-per-view fights and we watch the boxing. And it was, I do miss that about America. We were watching Oscar de la Hoya and Mayweather. There was a fight from Mayweather and Oscar de la Hoya. And we were at my house. And that weekend, I had my army 1 weekend a month because I was in the U.S. Army for 10 years. And people were at my house, and I was like, I got to go to bed. It's like 11 o'clock. I got to go sleep. I got to wake up really early. I went to bed. And when I woke up, my husband wasn't home. And we had this party. Now, remember, the year before, we almost died in an accident. So nobody was doing crazy stuff. So I thought maybe he was asleep in the car. Maybe he fell asleep somewhere. I don't know. I have to go. And his friends were looking for him. And it was probably 11:45 in the morning that Saturday. And I started freaking out. And I was like, where's my husband? I was calling him, no answer, calling hospitals, no answer. And I told my army sergeant, who is like a mother to me. This woman is like my army mom, Mama Lopez. And I'm like, Ma, I have to go because I don't know where Gio is. And she was like, go. And I got home. The hospital had called. And they were calling because of my medical bills from the year before, from breaking my back. Because I was a stupid 22-year-old that said no to insurance. Because I'm young, I don't need it. And I'm like, why did they call me at 7 a.m. anyway? They're like, we don't have information over the phone. Just come into the hospital. So I'm driving with his two friends to the hospital. And I'm in my uniform. And I walk in and they're like, go sit in that room. And it's the room where they give you bad news. And I felt like I was in that room for like 4 hours, Morgan. And I started freaking out. And this little old lady in the room across from me came out. She said, hey, darling, my husband's having heart surgery. I'm just waiting. This is just a private room. Calm down. Nothing's wrong. It's okay. And she gave me like a moment of peace. And then the double doors swing open and the nurse and the doctor came out and they just looked at me and they looked down and they were like, we're so sorry he didn't make it. And I had this moment of insanity, I guess you will call it, of like, excuse me, like nobody's home, silence. His friends are on the floor like wailing, two grown men like wailing on the floor. I'm like, I don't understand. And they're like, Giovanni Lopez, he didn't make it. I'm so sorry. We tried everything. And I'm just like, what do you mean? Like, what am I supposed to do? And I was just, maybe for 10 minutes, was just like, what? And yeah, my husband ended up passing away in a car accident that night. He called me at 1:20 in the morning. I was sleeping. I missed the call. And he smashed into a plane ditch and didn't have a seatbelt. And he had internal bleeding. And he passed away at 4:35 a.m. And it was the most intense, to this day, horrendous, horrible thing that I've ever had to move through.
After that, was this the thing that sort of sent you on a bit of a spiral? I can imagine trying to process that, deal with that. You're a single mother. You're a mother then, weren't you?
No, I wasn't a mother, no.
All these... Oh, you weren't a mother then. You have all these responsibilities in your hands now. What happened next?
Yeah, so... Yeah, prior to that, I think it just crumbled my world because prior to that, I grew up in foster homes. My mom was bipolar. She physically abused me. I was sexually abused. I was kidnapped. I mean, it was a horrible childhood upbringing and so much trauma. And so meeting Gio, we got secretly married. We were married for 5 years, boyfriend and girlfriend since high school, 7 years together. He went to Iraq and didn't die, came home. I mean, there was a lot, right? And so when he passed away, I was just like, God or whatever, whoever's up there hates me. Like I'm cursed. Something's wrong because I'm so cursed. And so I think it was TKO, like too much. I was just like, I need to tap out. And for whatever reason, I wasn't suicidal. I didn't want to leave the world, but I genuinely was like, this is so shit that I don't care. I drank and drove. I had questionable relationships, if you could even call them that. I just numbed out for probably 3 years trying to push it away. And I remember my mom, this is crazy, actually, I never really talked about this much. But I remember my mom, when I was 5 years old, she told me that she got sick. She got bipolar because when her dad died at 18 years old, she was 18. She cried a lot. That's what she said to me. And I was 5 years old and I'm listening. And now Gio dies. And I'm like, I'm not crying. I'm not dealing. I'm not coping. I'm good. And I tried to really like be good and not deal with it, thinking that if I dealt with it, I would become like my mom. This is all subconscious, right? Like no idea. And so I tried not to, air quotes, deal with it, but it was dealing with me.
Do you think that everybody has to go through some sort of, obviously not like what you've gone through, but do you think most people need to go through some sort of finding their pit, finding their rock bottom almost, to get the wake-up call they need to really kick them into the gear that they need to be in?
I 100% believe that. I am one of those people, and as much as I love personal development and I should do better and know better and all that, I am completely and utterly moved by pain, as most humans are. Some people can read a book and learn a lesson and go, ooh, I'm not going to do that. But most people, what I found in my work is that we wait for some dramatic ass thing to happen, like our kids to get cancer or a lump to happen in your breast, or, you know, someone dies, or you get fatty liver and you're like, oh, I better take my health seriously. So unfortunately, I do believe that that's what happens. And also, I think it's beautiful. Like when my clients are going through hard shit and they're crying and I'm like, this is amazing. And they're like, what do you mean? Like, my life is ruined. I'm going through a divorce. And I'm like, babe, this is great. Like, I know this sucks, but like, this shit's going to level you up. Like, this is resilience building. And obviously I can see, because of my life, that every fuckery created this beast and this powerful and this amazing person that I can be now. And I promise you I wouldn't be this if I didn't go through all that. And at the time, it sucks. Horrible. It's horrible. But you will overcome it. And then who will you become? Wow. Like, who you become, that's huge.
Yeah, because it's a trend I've seen in so many people's stories. Because I know not too long after this, you've grown your business and you've done all that. We can get into but so many successful people. If you peel back their story, there was a pivotal point where it's like things just went completely fucking wrong. And this is when, like me, 19 years old, I tried to take my own life. And then I was like, hey, that sucks. Completely different direction. And I have heard through, there's a psychologist called Dr. David Buss, and he talks about that there is actually a point in time where it does become harder for us to change. So up until the age of 25, they can actually just be shown a vision, shown hope, shown a new idea, like what you said. Read something in a book, go, oh, that's great, and then move towards the things that they actually want. After the age of 25, it becomes harder. And he said that after the age of 25, adults change through severe trauma. And it's almost like once the nail gets enough, and we've seen the story of like people who have 20, 30, 40 kilos overweight, and they know they're overweight, and it's not good, but the wake-up call they need is that small heart attack. The wake-up call they need is, you know, something horrific that drives so much pain into their life where they're like, I must change now. Because we're only motivated by pleasure or pain, and pain is far more motivating. I think someone asked me the other day, they're like, which one's better to be motivated from? And I'm like, well, whichever one works. However, I think sustainably, it's probably better to be motivated by pleasure eventually. But, you know, most successful people I've met, they built their first level of success through severe pain to be like, I don't want this anymore.
What's up, Dream Nation? Have you ever wondered how far ahead your life would have already been if you had got access to this type of content at a younger age? Look, this is why I need your help. I'm trying to build the #1 personal development platform out there to teach you guys the tips, tricks, and attitude of what it takes to live your dream life, and to bring the type of education that we all wish we had in school. This show only grows by word of mouth and new subscribers, so it would mean the world to me if you could smash that subscribe button right now, leave us a 5-star written review, or drop a comment below and share this episode with a friend. I would be forever grateful. All right, now let's get back into this episode.
100%. I completely agree. It's so crazy too, because I think I honestly, part of my talks, when I do my talks, I share my story, and not because I want anything else than for people to go, I get it. Like, who are you to tell me, the queen of confidence? I'm usually in hot pink. I look like a very confident, outgoing person. I'm an extrovert as hell. You know, I appear to be this untouchable, confident person. And so I have to get metaphorically naked on the internet and show you my shit. Like, hey, I get you. Let me just share with you all my shit. Cool? And then people go, oh, you see me, you get me. And then they get metaphorically naked, and then they open up. And it's crazy because I genuinely, honestly, Morgan, I think I should be addicted to drugs, which unfortunately a lot of people are who have trauma and issues. Alcoholism, which was something that was messing with me. You know, on the streets, homeless, in jail. I could have easily been in jail. And for whatever reason, and I still don't know what that thing is that holds me. And it's like this invisible, like coat hanger. And I could be literally hanging from a thread and my buttons are on the floor. But there's this little thread that's holding me, and it hasn't let me go for whatever reason. And it's wild. But I think that these are the things that completely move us. And especially, and I will say this, I've been in Australia for 14 years. If there is any comfort in your life, any comfort, you definitely need to get the slap down, because the comfort is a killer. You're not going to move. That would be nice. I should do that. It's not a fuck, I have to do that. I must do that. I'm at the edge. I got to jump. You're on the plane. You must jump and hope that you grow wings before you smash the concrete. Sometimes we got to get pushed to that edge, and comfort doesn't allow that sometimes.
So you went through all of this. You've just lost your husband. You broke your back a year before. You've gone through years of trying to figure shit out. And then in the space of 1 year, you went from literally counting coins to buy bread to then making $160,000 in your business. And then the second year, making $554,000 in your business. What the hell happened?
I know. Another bad timing. I had a baby out of my vagina, my friend. That's what happened. Literally, I had my first son, and I wanted this natural birth, and I had a cesarean, and it was so traumatic. And the birth system, oh my God, don't even get me started. Horrible situation. My second baby, I did a lot of body work. I did a lot of mind work. I did a lot of breathing and meditation, a lot of chilling out and humbling myself and maturing as an adult human, as a mother, as a woman in the initiation into parenthood. And I said, I want to have a home birth. I really want my body to be able to do this. And I worked really fucking hard. I didn't just rock up hoping for it. I did all the work for it. The day comes, I meditated this child out of my body. My husband was like, you are incredible. And now you're like this powerhouse lioness. How could you be more incredible? He was in awe of the power of having this baby. And I promise you, because everyone said I couldn't do it, because I have an autoimmune skin condition down there, and it was like the skin gets crazy, and people were scared that I was going to, tear and hurt myself and all this stuff. And I was like, I'm doing this, not egoically, but I'm going to do this safely. I'm going to trust my body. I literally didn't open my eyes once in the birth, Morgan. And I opened my eyes, baby comes out, it's a boy. The next day, my husband was like, I don't know who was birthed, if it was our kid, Nava, or you, but you were completely different. And I was in the shower, and I heard the call, and all of us have the call. It will knock a lot, and we won't listen, and we'll suppress it. And I was done suppressing the call. And it was like, what are you really here to do? You're not here to do styling. I was a stylist at the time. You're not here to do hair and makeup and external bullshit. You're here to work on the internal shit with women. So go do it. And I just ran downstairs. I was soaking wet. The whole house was wet. I was in a towel, and I'm like, babe, I'm not going back to my job. And he just looked at me. My husband's brown, and he turned white, and he was like, are you fucking crazy? We have no money. My gym is dying. We just had a baby. We just bought a Tiguan. You can't not go back to a $90K a year job. And I was like, look at me. I'm not doing it. I'm going to start my business in the worst time possible, Morgan, because I just felt like if not now, then when, right? And so that launched us into me pulling out my American grit and hustle. I was like, I'm American. I'm going to do this. Trust you, me. And I was just Gary Vee on fucking repeat. He was just yelling at me to start a YouTube, do a podcast, get on Anchor, do this, do that. So I was like, I'm doing this. And that first year we were struggling to buy Baker's Delight bread. We had electricity on a payment plan. We had $150K in debt because we had joined business trainings a year and a half before that we never used. Right? So all the investments you make that you don't action, if you actually listen, they are still in your subconscious. 2 years later, all that investment ended up working for me. And it was horrible. We couldn't eat out. We couldn't do shit. It was fucked. And I was at the edge again, right? Here's the edge. What are you going to do? And I was like, well, I'm not going to break. And I just started on Instagram, YouTube, podcasting, everything from scratch, just started. Built a community, and then monetized the community. And the following year, we did a group coaching program. And that's what got us to $500,000 in that second year. And I'm a foster kid. I'm a fucking food stamp girl from the hood. No education. I'm just going to uni now. Bad money beliefs. And so I was like, wow, this is actually possible. But again, I had to be pushed to the edge.
So what motivates you and drives you now then?
Oh, the women that I am yet to work with, the lack of belief in themselves, the believing that they're broken or flawed or messed up, the women that are in shitty relationships because they think that's all they can get, the women that are raising children that will be sexually abused because they lack confidence and they attracted asshole, gross people into their lives, like my mother did to me. The absolute responsibility that we need to take as human beings if we're going to heal all of the trauma that all of us have. You don't have to have my crazy story. Your parents could have broken up at 4 years old. When you were a kid, you could have been bullied. Someone could have called you fat. That's enough trauma to fuck you up, like for your whole life. So you don't have to have a crazy story. And so what drives me as the woman that I have yet to serve, what drives me is the possibility of the impact that we can make. And I feel like I got given this life as a gift. I feel like the horrible life that I lived was the biggest gift possible. And I got given a lot of energy. I have so much energy. It's annoying. And so I'm like, this is what I'm here to do. Like, this is the evidence and I have all the energy for it. I'm never tired of it. I don't feel like I've scratched the surface of my impact. And so that's my driving force for sure.
Mm. What do you think holds most women back when it comes to really stepping into their true power?
Oh gosh. So I think one of the biggest things is ourselves. 100%. Every International Women's Day, you will hear me say, the person stopping you is you. It's not smashing the patriarchy. I'm sorry. Like, we can't smash the patriarchy when you're smashing yourself. Like, you're at war with yourself and we need you on the battlefield for women's rights and you are fighting yourself.
What do you mean?
And so...
What do you mean smashing the patriarchy?
Like, a lot of women will say, like, oh, it's because of the patriarchy. It's because of the gender, we're not getting paid enough money. It's because of the male-dominated industry. It's because of... Like, and they'll point the finger out. And I know I'm a woman. I get it. Like, I'm a woman of color from a marginalized community. I understand our limits and I understand the actual problems when it comes to equality, gender, pay. Like, I get that. Completely get it. However, how are you to you? And so when we are the ones that are holding ourselves back the most, you won't win those wars out there. And we need to change things. The system does need to change. Women don't get paid a lot. Like, there's so much shit that goes on. And so I'm all for changing it. However, I think that the change needs to start with us. And so I think the thing that holds us back the most is the way we think about ourselves, the way we treat ourselves, our lack of taking personal responsibility, not fault, but responsibility, right? Dr. Wayne Dyer says responsibility is your ability to respond. If I blame my life, I can't change it. When I look to myself and go, how did I attract those shitty relationships? How did I attract my boss overlooking me and not paying me more? Oh, I didn't speak up at the meeting. Oh, because I don't think I'm good enough. Okay, cool. Let me work on that. Like, what can I do in order to move myself forward? And so I think that when we don't invest in ourselves and when we don't better our relationship with ourselves and our self-worthiness, it holds us back as the first point of call.
Do you think, I'm going to ask a question with the potential to really open up something really controversial. And it comes down to most of what my just ignorance to it. But when it comes to the gender pay gap and that whole conversation, because it tends to be the thing that comes up a lot when in this conversation, how real actually is that? Because like I said, it comes from my ignorance of it. Nearly every person who works for me is female, actually. But I'm not sure if it's in America more or here more, or even if it is something that's extremely true, because my perception of it is more women tend to do jobs that are not, let's swap roles. More men tend to do roles like blue collar works, tradesmen, these types of things that naturally incur more risk, danger, these sorts of things. And that career is paid more than the average female who tend to do a job, let's say stereotypically like nursing or whatever. Where I think it, and correct me if I'm wrong, I really want to understand this, is let's say if two people are doing the exact same job, if I hire a marketing manager, and is the conversation that because you're a female, you'll be paid less than a man? Because if that's the case, wouldn't every major corporation just hire females because it's cheaper? That's where I don't understand.
Yeah. So it actually is a thing. It's like women get paid $27,500 less or something. And Australia, I think, is number 43 in their ranking for gender equality in the world. There's only 29% globally, 29% of high-level leaders are women globally. So there's a couple things about this. I think for me, my view, and I'm not everyone's view. I think a lot of women get angry at me from my view, but I believe this view because of my life, because of the evidence I have. I believe this view. I should not be doing what I'm doing. I should not be here. I should not be making the money I'm making, doing all the amazing things. Statistically, I should be on the streets, right? Homeless or whatever the fuck. So for me, the view that I like to take is, yes, it's true. There are some douchey companies. There are some men that are making a lot of money in corporates. Let's not say trade, because obviously, because women have periods, even with military, I can't fight on the front lines. So there's all kinds of shit that we're not allowed to do because, woman and man and strength and shit like that. But let's say at a bank, you work at a bank, you want to get this job. There's a man in this job. He's getting paid more. Statistically, they will get paid more money because the system has been that way. Women have entered the workforce after men. The men ran everything. They were doing all the work. They were doing all the jobs. Women came in after. And so we were the ones that are caring for the home. And I think it's just now that women are having babies way later in life. We're worried about our career more. This wasn't some shit that used to happen. This is very new. Women are freezing their eggs now. Like, there's all this stuff because we're wanting to get our career, because we've been distracted with running the family, doing the kids. When someone gets really ill and sick in the family, it's usually the woman, the sister, or the mom that dedicates their life to care for these people. So because we have this old school way of being that we're going to be at home taking care of kids and doing all that, we can't focus at work. We can't spend the most hours. We can't invest in work, right? So this is very basic old school things. The thing that I speak about and what I like to encourage women to do is go, if you want to get paid more, you shouldn't be paid more because you are a woman. That makes no sense. I'm very much with Jordan Peterson on this, like so much. I love it, what he says. We should get paid more because we do more value. We add more value. But when we are thinking we're not good enough and we're shrinking at work, and there's so many statistics that show like 5 out of 10 women, when they're not happy with the way they look, will not assert themselves in a conversation. They won't assert their opinion. What if your opinion's amazing and it can move the company forward? You're not going to say it because you feel like you look ugly. Like, it's wild, right? Like wild stuff. So my, I guess, invitation is always like, how do we close this gender pay gap? How do we get paid more? How do we get more anything? How do you build your business? How do you grow anyway? You have to show up. You have to do the work on yourself to believe that you're worthy of asking for it. You have to lean in. You have to ask. You have to be there and tackle anything internally that says that you're not worth it or you can't. And until we do the internal work, I genuinely believe, Morgan, we're not going to win the external anything in any part of life, women or men. It starts with us. And so I try not to go into that too much because I can't impact that. And there's stuff that is unfair and it will be unfair. And anger doesn't help us. What helps us is personal responsibility and how we want to show up. And if you're killing it as a woman in your company and you see other women that are not, mentor her, help her, support her, hand her a ladder, be like, look at this, read this book. Like, let's just get more empowered women that are doing their work and being responsible. And I believe it will change things. But getting angry at this, that, and the other, that doesn't do shit. Because I could be angry. I have every right to be angry about a lot of things. Is it going to impact my life? No. It's just going to make me angry. You know what I mean?
Do you still deal with imposter syndrome?
No, I don't like that word. I hate imposter syndrome. I did a podcast about this, about reframing it.
What do you call it?
I don't like syndromes. I don't like labels. I don't like I'm anxious. I don't like it. I feel like it's another way for us to feel special and fucked up. And I don't like it because I have moments where I'm anxious and then I have moments of joy, but I'm not an anxious person. Like, are you anxious right now? No, I feel great. And then something happens and then I feel a bit anxious in that moment, but I am not anxious. I am not an imposter. So when I talked about it, I was like, reframe what that means. Imposter is your fake. So what are you faking? Are you faking something? Are you not real? Or are you just a person learning how to be a speaker, how to be a business person? Like, I definitely don't have it figured out. right? Like I'm working it out. So am I an imposter or am I a person in it, playing with it, learning and working on it? So I really like to reframe imposter syndrome as to not just calling it a syndrome and a label, but asking yourself, what do you feel like you're pretending or imposturing about? Oh, I don't know. I just don't know what I'm doing. Okay, how many times have you done it? So you're just not confident in doing it. So what if you tried it? Have you allowed yourself to suck? Do you think you should suck at the beginning? No. Well, you should. Everybody sucks at the beginning. And so like, I think we're zoomed out. Imposter syndrome feels so zoomed out and so general and like just imposter syndrome. And as a therapist, I know it's not a disease. It's not a syndrome that you can't get rid of. Like, there's nothing wrong in the brain with imposter syndrome that you can't get rid of. You can work through it in therapy. You can work through it in coaching. And so it's like, oh, I just feel like we can question these things instead of holding on to them.
Yeah. So what do you do? Do you still have times, I guess, when you have the inner critic, call it, or the self-doubt or the voices in your head that perhaps limit you or hold you back? Do you have moments like this?
Totally. 100%. So
how do you work through it?
Yeah. So I think for me, I'm very conscious of what I think and what I say and what I believe. So what I think, I will never control. No one can control what they think, right? It's so much thoughts and they're crazy thoughts. What I feel, I can inquire. What I believe, I can completely control. And so I can't control what I think. I can inquire and pay attention to how I feel, which is going to guide the depths of what am I believing? Is what I'm thinking what I'm believing? Because most of the time what you're thinking is not true. And it's not something that we should believe. It's kind of like a crazy radio station with a bunch of stuff. And it's like, whoa, hectic. But if you're feeling like I'll get on stage, or I was about to speak last week and it was a lot of pressure. There was, I guess the word is like scouts in the audience. The whole audience was scouts. And I want to be a professional runner. And I have to run in front of all these scouts. That's a little bit of pressure, right? Like, it's like, oh shit, I better run really good. I better do a good job. So I had all this pressure and I was nervous and I would find myself floating in and out of like heavy breathing and then I'd be like, girl, just chill the fuck out. You know who you are. You've done this a million times. You're fucking amazing. You got invited here. You can do this. But then my heart would start racing and my hands would start sweating and my mouth would start getting dry. And so I was practicing some breathing, just exhaling really slowly. But in my head, it was like, what if you fuck this up? Oh my God, this is so scary. I was nervous, extremely nervous, Morgan, doubting myself completely, with also the knowledge that I've done this and I trust myself and I know I'm going to kill it. But I'm also scared. Okay, I can be scared. And knowing that I'm going to do a good job because I've done a good job in the past, and holding scared. So it wasn't like, go away, fear. It was like, hi, fear. Welcome. You're here. Take a seat in the back. Put your seatbelt on. Let's go. But it's not driving.
Yeah.
You know?
So for all the women, perhaps, and men watching this.
Yeah.
For the women watching this specifically who might see you and they want to grow a successful business. They want to step into their confidence more. They want to become more empowered. And obviously like the hustle energy, the grit is masculine. And we've got to tap into that to get shit done. How can a female specifically tap into their high level of confidence and really just crush it and create the most successful life whilst still remaining feminine?
I feel like it's weird because I have a lot of masculine energy to me. And my husband has a lot of feminine, like naturally as a person. And for me, it's probably come from my survival mode and who I've needed to be. And probably I was always going to be a loud, outgoing kid. I was always like that. So when I spoke to Gary, he was like, a bit of it is DNA. So I would say a little bit of it is your personality and who you are and how you were raised. But it doesn't mean that you can't step into the other side. My husband's very feminine, but he's a dude. Like, he's a total dude, total man, dad, you know, like, but he's a slower person. He's more nature and slowing down. And his inkling is not to do more. It's to like rest. And I don't think I necessarily need to do that because I'm a woman. I think there are moments where I need to step into soft and slow. So how I look at feminine and masculine is they're pieces together that we need. And I think most of the women I've spoken to have masculine as a bad thing or it's negative. And the men that I know that are in their masculine are like, that's not masculine. I don't know what that is. That's not masculine. Like, you know what I'm trying to say? There's a lot of like feminine and masculine, and it's like, you need both. You need the yin and you need the yang. Sometimes you got to do shit. Can't be too spiritual, like, whoa, and nothing happens. So how do we feel and vision and think and be amazing? And then how do we materialize? So I don't think about it in that way. Like, am I being too masculine, or let me step into my feminine? I don't, again, it feels like labels to me. I just go, who do I need to become to get the dreams that I desire? And I lead myself from that through my vision. And if I don't have a big why and a big vision, I'm not doing anything. Nothing's driving. So I would really, anybody listening, male, female, however you identify, really tap into, why do you want it? Like, if you don't know why you want it or why you're doing it, you're going to struggle with the lack of clarity. There will become a lack of action. With the lack of action is a lack of result. And so I really believe we need to know what's driving us and why. And if it's money, cool, who cares? If it's validation, that's probably not that healthy. You know, if it's a big vision to impact people, fantastic. If you're doing it for your kids, cool. I'd never do anything for my kids. But if that drives you, at least there's something there that will sustain you when shit gets hard.
One thing that I wish I did earlier, and sometimes if people ask me, what's something you'd tell your younger self? I would tell my younger self to stop giving a fuck what other people think a lot sooner. And as crazy as it is, and as much as I know about the human brain and all this, it still is a thing that plays up for so many people. And I know for a fact that it still come up sometimes for me. The hesitance in some things, like, oh, but what about this person? Or what are they going to think? And the judgment and the opinion. So how do we actually go about really owning our mindset, really owning who we are, and simply not giving a fuck about the judgments and opinions of other people so we can go after what we want?
Yeah, that's actually, I would say, the second thing that holds us back from confidence is that we give too many fucks what people think. So when you asked me before my first, that's my second. So for me right now, coming to Australia, being American and being so different, it was the thing that made me shrink myself. And I was like, I have to be like everyone else. I cared so much, Morgan, about what everyone thought about me. And I went on this journey of healing all that shit that we spoke about for 8 years. 8 years I worked on this. I didn't help anyone in those 8 years, by the way. I worked on me and then decided to support people. And what I found in that time was, I don't know who I am. Neither do you. Neither does anybody listening. Consider that you don't know who you are. And if you don't know who you are, all you're learning is who you're not. I don't know who I am. I'm not who I was 6 months ago. Who am I going to be in 6 months? Not this version of me, especially if you're into personal development and you're listening to Morgan's podcast. So you are not who you were 6 months ago. Who will you be in a year? Someone that you don't know. So I'm constantly evolving and changing. I don't know who I am, but I know who I'm not. So if a stranger or my auntie or my ex-boyfriend or a follower on Instagram defines me and judges me and thinks they know who I am, I just laugh. Because I'm like, oh, fuck, you figured me out? Fantastic, because I don't know who the fuck I am. And it gives me this freedom because I'm always changing and evolving. And I just go, cool, person that doesn't know who they are and doesn't know who I am. You got me? So there was this quote that I heard and it was like, let people be wrong about you. And I was like, amazing. Let people be wrong about you. People will be wrong about you. Let them be. They don't know who you are. You don't know who you are. So allow that person to think what they want and paint you as this person that's only a reflection of them. And by the time they're trying to work you out, you're on to the next great thing, becoming someone new. So it's freedom.
I love it. This has been fun.
Yeah.
Where can everybody find you on social media and check out all the amazing things you put out?
On Instagram all the time. So you can come and see me at the Queen of Confidence. I love talking to people on Instagram. It's my place to be. I have a podcast, the Confidence Chronicles podcast. And yeah, you can just come and say hello. If you enjoyed this, tag us so that we can see. It's a pleasure. And thank you so much for doing the work you do, Morgan. You are amazing. And I'm so, so grateful we got to chat.
I love it. All right, I got a final question for you.
Yes. If
you could go back to your 18-year-old self and give her 30 seconds of advice, what would it be?
18-year-old self. go to a Tony Robbins event as soon as possible. That's what I would say to her, because like she would have loved that. And that's what she needed. She didn't have any role models at all. And she needed it. I think if I would have had like Landmark or Tony Robbins or personal development back then at some capacity, because I would have loved it. Like that, I had that energy back then. I think my life would have been different. Obviously, I'm so happy with how it is. But yeah, I think I would say that. Go see Tony Robbins.